Hi, and welcome to BG24 Public Affairs. I'm Melissa Belcher.
I'm Danielle Griffith.
And I'm Gemma Schultz. In honor of this week's past holiday, President's Day, tonight we'll be learning some great facts about our past presidents with a valued PhD student from the BGSU History Department.
It should be a learning experience for us all, because tonight we will also learn more about Black History Month and its significance with a professor who is also from the BGSU History Department.
We'll also be switching gears on how to lend a helping hand to your favorite animals.
As we all know, this winter has been a challenging one. It's been hard to keep warm for everyone, but have you ever stopped and wondered how your pets are struggling just to keep warm?
Yep. And it's safe to say that nobody wants their furry friends to struggle this winter. So tonight we will be talking about winter care for your animals with a devoted volunteer from the Bowling Green Humane Society.
But before we get into all of our interesting topics tonight, here's Heather Poloff with tonight's news and weather. Heather.
Thanks, Danielle. An agreement has been reached between Bowling Green State University's administration and faculty union. The agreement includes a severance pay for faculty who have had 4 or more years of service with BGSU, as reported by the Sentinel Tribune. These severance payouts range between $6,000 and $25,000 and could cost the university a total of over $300,000. The agreement will also allow 5 faculty members to exercise seniority rights in order to keep their positions. This would result in any non-tenure faculty with less service to lose their positions. And over 65 inches of snow have fallen over the Northwest Ohio area this winter. And while some are eager for this week's warm-up, many forecasters are expecting flooding issues. The Associated Press reports a warning from the Ohio Emergency Management Agency that flooding is imminent with rising temperatures. Along with warmer temperatures, rain is also in the forecast this week, adding to those flood risks. Ohioans are urged to prepare by securing buildings and possessions in areas prone to flooding. And speaking of upcoming weather, let's take a quick look at your Black Swamp weather forecast. Today we saw highs in the mid-30s under mostly sunny skies. For tonight, lows will drop down into the mid-20s with clouds moving into the area. For tomorrow, expect snow showers early, turning to rain as the day progresses. Highs will reach into the mid-40s. And for your weekend, expect to see those relatively warm temperatures move out of the area by Sunday. Friday will be a little bit windy as the warm front makes its way all the way through the area. Saturday, we see another chance for a rain-snow mix with highs still in the upper 30s. Sunday and Monday will dry out and see those temperatures dip back into the 20s. So that snow that we just saw the snow that we just saw fall yesterday, we'll see that pretty much melt off for tomorrow with those warm temperatures. And when we come back, we will be speaking with a history professor about President's Day. Stay tuned.
Hi, and welcome back to BG24 Public Affairs. Monday was President's Day, so we are here with Joseph Fakos, an advanced PhD student from the BGSU History Department. Thank you so much for joining us, Joseph.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and you know, we all have our opinions on which president is the best, but tonight we're going to see if our opinions match up with the history.
Great.
Okay, and that's right. We're going to have like a friendly debate, just talk about who's the best of the best. And I think Gemma is going to start with hers.
Yeah, my favorite president is JFK. I think he did a lot. He's really notorious. He's popular with almost everybody. He was one of our youngest presidents. But when I think of JFK, I automatically think of the space races, and I just think that our space program would be nothing where it is without all the steps and the measures that he took. So I think that's why I fancy JFK.
And I'll have to piggyback off of Gemma as well. Like, my favorite would be JFK as well, because I mean, he always stood for no man is above the law, as well as no man being below the law. And I think that's good in today's society, because we have, you know, kind of got away from what that actually means. So.
Well, I'll say that I have to disagree with you all. My personal favorite is Obama. I think he shows that we have come a very long way, you know, with our presidents in the past. And I'm just really, you know, everyone isn't satisfied with him, but I'm looking forward to seeing the changes he makes before his term is over.
The great thing about both of those guys, both Obama and JFK, is that they were really good about communicating to the American people their ideas, and it is, of course, going to be up to debate about how good maybe the space race is or how good the healthcare system is right now. But I think the idea of proposing to the American people an idea, proposing a solution to a problem that we all have, and trying to follow through on that, I think that's ultimately how we judge the presidents. And so it's very interesting that you chose people that we've grown up seeing their image, seeing their speeches, and memorizing them, you know, in some cases. So.
And now,
Oh,
and commemorating for President's Day, like, are we commemorating, former past presidents? Because, some people say, we're celebrating George Washington's birthday. So, like, in your opinion, what is the significance of President's Day? Who are we celebrating in?
I think it'd be really difficult if we had to set aside a day every year for each and every president, and we might not want to celebrate, say, Millard Fillmore's birthday. But the idea that we can celebrate, like you said, both the president that we have right now, the ones that are still alive, and then the ones that are dead that have contributed a lot, and make sure that they're all remembered, and hopefully remembered in a positive way, because it is a tough job, right? That you have to go in and you're not going to be popular with about half of the American people, no matter what. And so I think honoring what they're giving up in terms of their private life is kind of important.
And in your opinion, who do you believe is your favorite president?
My favorite president's probably different from the one that I think is the best. I'll go with the one I think is the best. And that's probably going to be Teddy Roosevelt in terms of setting up what we consider the modern presidency. He took an office that really was kind of boring for a lot of people and made it into an office that he was going to have a lot of power. And the presidency that we think of today that was able for Barack Obama and for Teddy Roosevelt to be so successful is all going to be owed to someone like Teddy Roosevelt coming around and kind of reinvigorating the office. But I'd be too partisan if I said who my favorite is, so I'll stick with.
Oh, come on. We said our favorite. Who's yours?
I grew up, let's say, with Bill Clinton. He was someone that I really enjoyed from a very early age, learning about, reading about. One of my earliest memories is getting a weekly reader, and they had him as one of the candidates, and I thought, that's going to be our next president. He went to the University of Toledo for a speech, and I got out of school to go watch him, and so I think a lot of my interest in presidents is owed to my interest in Bill Clinton and what he tried to do for our country. Good and bad, right? He wasn't exactly the perfect president, but he was at least fun and interesting, and I think he still has a lot to say for our country.
Okay. Well, I wanted to play a trivia game with you all
great.
called Name That President.
All right.
So I'll ask you a question and give it your best shot and let me know. Okay, so the first one is, which president was once a peanut farmer before he came into office?
This, I have no idea. I'm going to take a shot in the dark and say John Adams.
Jimmy Carter?
Correct. Okay, the second one is, which president was a movie actor? I know you all have to know.
Is it Ronald Reagan?
Correct. Okay.
Ronald Reagan was.
The third one is, who was the first left-handed president?
I'm going to go with Thomas Jefferson. No.
Oh, this is a tough one.
I'll give you all a hint. He was the 20th president.
20th
then.
president. Go ahead.
James Garfield.
Yep. Okay, and lastly, who was the tallest U.S. president? Everyone should know this.
Abraham.
And does anyone know how tall he actually was?
He's 6'4".
Yes, good job.
6'4",
Yeah.
that's great.
Well, thank you so much for joining
thanks
us.
for having
We
me. It
really
was a lot of fun.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we come back, we're going to talk to a Humane Society volunteer about how to keep your animals warm in the winter. Welcome back to BG24 Public Affairs. Right now I have with me Luke Gibbs. He's a volunteer at the Humane Society, and this winter has been an extremely cold one. It's been hard keeping ourselves warm, let alone our animals. So tonight he's going to tell us a little bit about animal safety in this cold.
Yeah, it's been bad, as like you said, for people, but also the animals as well. Especially on the days where it's been about -30. It was even hard to get the animals outside to go to the bathroom. But there are some things that people could do in order to help their pets. One of which is only let them out for short periods of time. The longer you leave them out, the more chance there is to get frostbite, which is very common in animals. Actually, 3 cats right now in the shelter have had to have ears, paw pads, or tails removed because of frostbite. So it's bad, and this winter has been especially hard with how cold it's been.
Yeah, for sure. And who is our little furry friend we have here?
This is Nicholas. We like to call him Nicky. He's actually the longest resident at the shelter, or the Humane Society right now. He's been there a year this month, and he is very friendly. He loves all people, and he loves attention. So.
All right, awesome. So you mentioned that it's been like -30, and animals like Nicky, that's really cold for them to be outside. So how cold is too cold?
I mean, there isn't really a set temperature. Just when you feel that when they don't really want to go outside or they're clawing at the door to get back inside, it's probably time to bring them in would be, I guess, the good indicator for that one. Also, a couple other things you could do with the cold is because it's so cold, a lot of outdoor animals like to get under cars. So it's good to knock on your hood before you get in your car to let any animal, they will scurry away. So because there have been cats killed sleeping under cars before when people start their engines.
Yeah.
Also, if an animal has to be outside, the biggest thing is to keep their water bowl warm, whether it's a heated bucket or a heat lamp to keep the water warm. And also, instead of using a blanket, to put down straw because it's a cheaper alternative and actually keeps heat in better than a blanket will.
Okay, and like you said, if you do have an outdoor pet and you're taking those measures, how can you tell if maybe they're still too cold or they're still suffering? What are some signs you can look out for?
Well, with frostbite, it actually starts out more gray than people. When you see it at the end, it's black, but it actually starts out as gray. And if the animal will let you know, it'll look infected. So it's a good thing to go get it checked out if you start to see that as well.
Okay, and if maybe you have neighbors who have pets or you see them outside or maybe you think they've been out there too long, what are some things you can tell if like animals are getting neglected? What are some signs people can look out for?
I mean, it is hard to tell whether an animal's being neglected or been outside too long, but if you do feel as if an animal is being neglected, you can definitely call the shelter. And we have a humane agent who goes out and checks on those things to make sure an animal is not being abused or neglected. So that would definitely be the best option.
Yeah.
There.
And Nikki here, he has on a coat, so tell us more about that. Is that something?
He loves being dressed up. He loves sweaters and coats, and just because it's cold outside, we decided to put one on for him. But yeah, a lot of animals love wearing the coats. So
yeah, so that is something you'd suggest maybe for these winter months.
definitely,
it's pretty cold.
Especially with smaller dogs, are more prone to get cold than the bigger dogs. So definitely with small animals, it's great to put coats on them or something like that.
Okay, yeah. And tell us a little bit about what you guys do at the Humane Society.
There's a lot of volunteering opportunities, one of which you can go and play with the animals. We have dogs and cats. We actually have about 100 animals at the shelter right now. We also have a horse at the Healing Barn. So if anybody's interested in the horse, if you contact the Healing Barn, that's the best way to get it, to go see it and see if you want to adopt it. But yeah.
Okay, and if someone does want to adopt a pet, what are the measures they can take?
When you go into the shelter, they can walk you through all the steps to adopt. The biggest thing is, making sure you love the animal, and there's a room you can go in and bond with the animal. And spend as much time as you need to before you put in an application for it.
All right, cool. And also, tell us a little about, you said you have fundraising going on.
We do. We actually have a lot of fundraisers coming up, one of which I actually have right here. It's our Elder Bierman Days. We have this little pamphlet, and they're $5. You can get them at the Humane Society, and there's up to $25 off, so it pays for itself quickly. We also have McDonald's and Buffalo Wild Wing Days, where proceeds go to the Humane Society in March and April. And also in April, we actually are planning a bar crawl for the dogs, which is one of our biggest fundraisers. Hopefully this year we're going to work with everybody to get everybody downtown for the animals. And our biggest fundraisers are Wine and Dine. It is in June, and it's a semi-formal event. We drink wine and eat, and there's a live auction and a silent auction. It's actually our biggest fundraiser of the year. So.
Okay. And the Humane Society is great. People in our community can come and get involved. But is there anything that college students can get involved with?
Yes, we actually have a student organization called Friends of the Wood County Humane Society. I'm actually the vice president of the organization right now. We meet every other Monday at 7:30, and it's a great way we talk about volunteering opportunities and. Sorry, you got excited, but it talks about volunteering opportunities and things of that nature, ways to get involved for that. So. It's a great way to get your volunteer hours, and if you love animals and you're homesick, it's a great way to get that out of the way also.
That's great. Thank you for joining us tonight, Luke.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Well, those were our tips and tricks to keep your pets warm. When we come back, Melissa will be here talking to a professor from the history department about Black History Month. Stay tuned.
Contact BG24 News with email, Twitter, or Facebook.
Hi, and welcome back to BG24 Public Affairs. As most of us know, February is Black History Month, and we all thought it was really important to make note of that. So joining us in the studio tonight is Professor Nicole Jackson from the BGSU History Department. Thanks so much for joining us, Nicole.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so, okay, let's jump right into it. Could you tell us a little bit of history about Black History Month?
Yeah, so Black History Month emerges in the early 20th century through the works of a man named Carter G. Woodson,
Okay.
who is also the founder of the Journal of what's now called African American History. And he was a man, a scholar, and an activist who believed that if we don't understand the contributions of Black people to the U.S., then they would never be sort of understood or accepted as full citizens.
Okay. And I know that Black History Month started as a week and has now expanded into a month. Could you tell us a little bit about how that transition occurred?
So it was a week, but it was a voluntary week.
Okay.
Where honestly local community groups would celebrate that week in churches and in Black schools, segregated Black schools in the South, to supplement the kind of history that they were not getting in schools. And really through their efforts, it expanded slowly but surely into a week that the federal government would recognize, and then later to the full month.
Okay. Now, Black History Month is something that is debated upon many. And so I guess I would ask you, why do you believe the month is so controversial?
So I think it's controversial for the very reasons that Carter G. Woodson recognized when he was developing the week, which is that it's very difficult for a kind of true history of the U.S. to incorporate African Americans, especially because that history is painful and no one sort of knows what to make of it.
Right.
So it's still controversial now because I don't think that we have ever sort of really made amends with the tragedies of the past, which include African Americans and white Americans and sort of everyone else as well.
Yeah. Okay, so some people, well, I guess I'll ask you, do you believe that the month is long enough?
Well, I don't know if the month itself should be the kind of arbiter of are we doing enough to deal with African American history. The month has resonance. It was chosen, you know, for a reason historically, in that in the month of February you have the birthday of Lincoln and, oh God, I've just forgotten his name, Booker T. Washington.
Okay.
And that sounds bad. But it was meant to sort of recognize these two really important men. But if the month of February is the only time where you're getting Black history, that's absolutely not enough. So it really shouldn't be the only time, but it's a great time to kind of commemorate what has happened.
Okay. And there's also a small debate about it being called Black History Month. Some people think that it should just be called American History because it is a part of American history. So what are your thoughts on that?
If it was ever just American history, there would have been no need historically for a Black History Month.
Okay.
Which I guess is a simple answer.
Yeah. Okay, so do you believe that focusing on Black History Month in classrooms for the younger generation is really important?
Absolutely. I think, and that can look at a lot of different ways. So some schools are kind of take the stance that, you know, these are really important African Americans historically. So that's where you'll see mentions of Harriet Tubman and Booker T. Washington, and you have real discussions of sort of slavery. And then also Martin Luther King. But it can also be kind of a really in-depth sort of local history, looking at local people in your areas, local Black people who have contributed to that history as well. It's adaptable.
Okay. And many people may not know this, but Black History Month is also celebrated in Canada and in the United Kingdom. Did you know a little bit about that at all?
I've heard of Canada. I know a little bit more about England, which I think is a great kind of comparison to see why Black History Month is so important. We're kind of used to certain discussions of Black History Month in the US, but in England, for certain, you don't have the same kinds of discussions, and Black people aren't kind of integrated into that history at all. And so Black History Month is not necessarily something that every school will celebrate. It's much more like Black History Month in the U.S. in the early 20th century, a community project. So you'll see local museums and libraries are the ones who are putting together a lot of programming because they're really trying to do the work that happened in the U.S., you know, over 100 years ago.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really do appreciate it.
Welcome.
Okay. And people can come visit you. You work for the BGSU History Department, right?
Sure, you can stop by my office.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for joining us once again. Okay. When we come back, we'll let you know what's in store for next week's show on BG24 Public Affairs. Stay tuned. Well, that's our show for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.
It was just good to hear, you know, the thoughts about Black History Month, and it was just interesting to me to hear that they celebrated outside of the U.S., like you said, Canada. I think it was just good to hear that, you know, culture is also, you know, celebrated in different countries as well. So that was good.
Yeah, for sure.
So we do want to thank Dr. Jackson as well.
Yeah, and we want to thank Joseph for talking to us about President's Day. I think we learned a lot of cool info. Maybe embarrassed ourselves just a little bit on that trivia, but it was fun.
Yeah, and Luke too. You know that dog I just can't get over.
Yeah,
Nikki
Yes.
so cute.
Nikki is adorable.
And well-mannered, so that was good. It's always good to adopt dogs. I think that's pretty cool.
It is great. Next week, we're going to find out more about a student-produced play, Vagina Monologues, from the producer and cast themselves.
Well, sounds like a great show for next week. And don't forget about the BG24 news tomorrow night.